Hi bold bakers, I'm very excited to have Ami back in the kitchen with me today.
Hi everyone.
We are making traditional Indian paratha. They're absolutely beautiful bread and Ami is going to walk me through all the steps and we're going to make it and it's going to be really easy, I think.
I think so.
Okay, Ami, I want you to show me how to make this because it's such a beautiful bread, it's rich in tradition, and I have no idea how to make it.
Okay, well then let's get started. So here we have 3 cups of flour, and we're gonna throw in some salt, and then, we just mix this dough with our hands. So I'll put the salt in, and then you can, if you want, you can just swirl the salt around the flour.
Okay, with my clean hands.
With your clean hands.
So, Ami, I have a question already. We made something before and we had to use a different flour.
Yes.
What flour is this?
So this is it's called maida flour. It's a white flour. You can use all-purpose flour as well. Maida is it's a finer grain. It's more traditionally used for flaky Malabar paratha, but all-purpose flour would work as well.
Okay, great.
And then we're going to throw in some oil, and then what you should do is just sort of like you would with like butter and flour. You're just going to rub the oil into the flour until it's evenly mixed.
Kind of a little bit lumpy.
Yeah, or just kind of like as evenly as you can. Bringing up the flour from the bottom.
I love how we can make this with our hands and not have to use a machine.
Yeah. It feels good.
This is what I adore bread making so much is because it's flour, it's salt, it's water. Like there might be a little bit of yeast or like oil or like maybe it's a raising agent like baking soda or something. But they're pretty much all made by the same ingredients, just different technique.
Yeah, it's really so basic and really such a building block of so many meals around the world.
Yeah. How's that looking? Is that looking good?
That's looking really great. Here, let me feel for a sec. Yep. That's so once you have all the oil rubbed into the flour pretty evenly, this is some water we're going to put in, and it'll be sort of wet and sticky at first, but as you keep going, it'll come together. So, if it looks like if it looks like you're kneading it and it's still really crumbly and dry, you can add water just a little bit more, but I would just go like a few drops at a time.
Yeah, like a splash.
Because it won't need much. And if there's too much water in it, it'll get a little too sticky and hard to roll.
Just to hydrate. And I know, Ami, you know this, when you make bread doughs and pastry, it's really important to remember that we have to rest this when we're done, right?
Yeah, absolutely, so that the gluten relaxes.
Yeah, so the gluten relaxes. And when doughs and breads relax, they express liquid.
Yeah.
So it gets wetter. So you're like, oh no, my dough is a little bit on the dry side. You lash in water and then it's too wet.
Right. And you do want this dough in particular to be on the softer side, not too sticky that you can't roll it, but you want it nice and soft, and it's forgiving. If you make it with a little bit too much water, you can add in a little more flour. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
These are all just, when I was growing up making these roti and paratha and whatnot, it was always a bit of, there was no real measurements. We would throw in some flour and then, I would kind of stand by the sink and put a little water at a time and keep going. So these measurements are, they're pretty close, but they're, your flour might be slightly different. The day might be more humid. There's a lot of different factors that might cause you to need more or less water.
Like you said, it's forgiving.
Yes. Something that my mom taught me with soft dough is just doing a pinch test. And you want to make, just have it be nice and soft so that you can pinch it almost all the way down. And that seems nice and soft. That seems right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah.
This is a fun bread.
Yes.
And no yeast.
So it's easy. Yeah, that's looking nice. It's like all coming together. It's looking really nice and smooth and evenly mixed.
Yeah. It's not too dry. It's not too wet. Yeah. Gorgeous. Now, what's our next step?
So we're gonna let the dough rest for about an hour. If you're in a hurry and you really wanna just get this done, you can, but it's nice. It makes it a lot easier to roll out without the dough pulling back on you. So we're gonna cover it with either a plate or some plastic wrap so it doesn't dry out, and we'll get back to it in an hour.
So it's been an hour. I'm excited for this next step because I know that there's all sorts of folds and everything. So I am your student, Ami. Tell me what to do.
Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna divide this dough into 8 equal portions. Now, why don't I divide it in half and then I'll show you how we, then we can work on it.
I want you to do what you do, which is this, which is when you ask Ami to divide something into things, she puts it up with her hand and takes off balls. So do it your way.
Okay.
I've never seen anybody do this before.
This is, that's because you haven't spent enough time
in
the kitchen with an Indian mom.
That's true. That's very true.
Everything is just done by feel, at least the way we did it. So we would make sure every pieces were even by going like that. If they feel even enough in your hand.
You always get it like exactly right.
Yeah, and then if this feels a little bit bigger, you pinch off a little more and you kind of keep going.
I think I'm okay there.
Yeah, and then you can cut it. In this dough, I'm gonna say
it's a bit wet, is it?
Well, no. We have a fair amount of dough. I'm gonna say that each one of these sections we're gonna cut into 3 equal pieces. You can make them as big or small as you want, but sometimes as we're just learning how to make parathas, they might be easier when they're slightly smaller. Just a little bit easier to work with.
All by feel.
Yeah, all by feel, and then if they all feel more or less even, and I think these things don't have to be an exact science.
And then do you roll them into little like balls, or do you just leave them the way they are?
I just leave them the way they are, and you know what, we'll bring the bowl back, and so the dough doesn't dry out, we'll put the ones that we're not working with in here, and we can just keep them covered.
Here, I have a tea towel, we can cover them with this.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, so we're gonna start with, Okay, we're gonna start with our balls of dough. I have a couple of rolling pins.
What kind of a rolling pin is this?
Well, this is the very classic rolling pin that you would use to roll any Indian bread.
Yeah.
It's just, you can use any kind of a rolling pin, but these I picked up the last time I was in India, which was a very long time ago.
So very traditional. These are funky and I love them. It's gorgeous. It's a great rolling pin.
So we're gonna take a nice generous pinch of flour all over our surface.
I like how in this new kitchen we get to do it together.
Yeah, exactly. So much more space. So then, I like to make a nice, really even ball with my hands.
Okay.
And then flatten it out. Just a little less work for the rolling pin.
Okie dokie.
Now I'll pat both sides with flour. So I'll press it into the flour on both sides so that it doesn't stick to the counter and it doesn't stick to the rolling pin. And then I'll basically just roll a circle as best you can. And I'll roll back and forth a little bit and then I'll keep turning it.
Do you know what's really, so I've never used one of these before, but you know what's really funny is that you get like such precision on it. I think it's because the shape of it or something, but like I'm going to get this bread really thin because of this rolling pin. Just the way it's designed, that's incredible.
Yeah, and we would just kind of go back and forth with our hands like this. My mom has this amazing way of rolling where it looks like she's just going back and forth and yet somehow she ends up rolling this perfect circle.
Yeah, that's just a mom thing. My mom does the same stuff. They just know stuff that we don't know.
They just do.
But that's what they have over us.
Well, what I always say to my mom is, you know what? It all tastes the same.
That's true. So does it matter if some of them are thin in the middle but then thick on the edges?
No, I think you want to try to get it as even as you can. And but you can always just go around the edges.
Okay.
If I can start seeing light through it.
That's a good gauge, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not going to tear. So you can see I can lift it up. It's pretty pliable.
That's the thing I was going to say is that it's a really pliable dough and all it is salt and flour, oil and water.
Yeah, I think the resting phase really helps with that.
Look at it, I think I did it.
Yeah, there you go.
You can see through it.
Yes, and so next we're gonna take some butter.
Okay.
And this is a nice soft, you can use ghee as well. But either butter or ghee, just make sure it's nice and soft but not melted. Because you want it to
melt on the pan probably.
You just want the layers the layers of the paratha to stay layered, and so you don't want the ghee or the butter to melt into the dough. Anyway, I'm taking about a tablespoon of butter, more or less. It doesn't have to be exact, and I'm gonna try to brush the entire surface with the butter.
So I'm guessing, I would have thought that this butter is creating the layers. Is it also creating layers?
Well, the butter, the layers of butter and dough together. So so the butter will kind of keep the layers of dough separate. And I'll give that to you.
Thank you. So spread it all over.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna start at the top and we're gonna do a very tight coil. So this is what's gonna start creating those beautiful flaky layers.
Gotcha.
Now you're gonna notice a little bit of flour on the underside as you roll. Don't try to brush that off because that little bit of flour will also help keep the layers separated as they're cooking. So now that you've got a nice tight coil like this, I stretch it out a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Give it a, so that you have, yet again.
This is such an easy dough to work with. I love it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very forgiving. So now we're gonna do a coil and we're gonna meet together in the center. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna coil this one up.
Okay.
And this one, the other end down.
Gotcha.
Okay, so,
Gotcha,
and you just kind of keep going and you get this really pretty shape.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, and now we're gonna just sandwich them together like that.
So you get them like this.
Yeah.
And then you sandwich them like that.
And then we're gonna press them.
And then we're gonna squish them.
And we're gonna let them rest.
And we're gonna let them rest.
And we're gonna repeat that.
Okay.
10 more times.
Here we go again. These better be good. So Ami, when they're at this stage and they've been coiled, what do we do next? What's the next step?
Well, now we roll them out again.
Okay.
Okay, so just take one that, maybe one of the first ones you've had that have had a chance to rest. And this time we're gonna roll them out to about an 8-inch circle.
I can do that. It definitely helps if they had a chance to rest, doesn't it? They're easier to roll.
Yes. So we're gonna be rolling this out to about 6 to 8 inches, nice and thin, but it does not have to be as thin as our first roll.
I can feel the layers.
Yeah, I know, isn't that cool?
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so they're all rolled out and we're ready to cook them.
Great, my favorite part.
Okay, so this is our tawa, which is a very thin iron pan. It's traditionally used to cook roti, naan, and in this case, paratha.
Interesting, I've seen these before, but I've never used one.
Yeah, they're really, you could use it at a regular iron pan as well. These are just thin and they heat up really fast.
Yeah.
So you're gonna put the paratha on flat, the tawa is dry. There's no oil or butter on that, and we're gonna cook both sides until they're nice and golden brown.
For those of you who have not seen Ami on my social media, Ami has been helping, has been a part of the Bigger Bolder baking team for like over a year now. And you definitely have taught me a lot, especially when it comes to like the Bold Baking Worldwide recipes that we do. Like we do recipes from all around the world and we release them on a Monday. And every time you come to me with all of these like crazy ideas, stuff that I've never even heard of.
It's so fun. There's just amazing things being baked all around the world all the time.
Yeah, for Christmas time, remember all the different cookies we did? We're doing it again this Christmas.
So good.
It's great to have that perspective because I only know what I know, but it's great to have you come in and be like, well, how about this, that? Have you done this yet on the website and things like that? So, but Ami, you are definitely my culinary superhero.
Why, thank you. But it's fun for me too because there's all these things that I might have always been curious about or have never heard of before, but in doing research for, what kind of things we might want to look into baking, it's really fun to learn. Yeah, it's a great learning experience.
We do learn a lot. Yeah, every time we do learn a lot.
Yeah. So we see we've cooked both sides of the paratha. It's just, you've got some darker spots here.
I love how this bread is just puffing up and you're getting those lovely little bubbles. Mm-hmm. Is that from from the rolling and the coil and the flattening and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think so. And there's also, just moisture, like the water in the dough is
the water in the butter.
Yeah, creating steam.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are done with the first round of cooking.
Okie dokie.
And now we're gonna cook them again, this time really quickly. We're just gonna toast them up with some butter.
Nice.
So we're gonna put a generous amount of butter on the hot pan.
Delicious.
And then we're just gonna toast it. We want the heat to be, like medium. The paratha is already cooked. You're just toasting the outside. Mm-hmm. All right, so it looks like this is done. You see my pan is nice and hot and smoking. So now we're gonna do one last thing before our paratha is ready to be eaten, which is we're gonna take it out and we're gonna scrunch it.
Oh, interesting.
And I do it with a tea towel because my hands are very sensitive to heat. You can do it with your bare hands if you
I can do it with my bare hands, for
and
sure.
that is to release the steam so that the paratha stays nice and crunchy and shows up. You can see all the different layers.
Yeah, you can. Gorgeous.
Yeah. I'm gonna just keep going while this pan is hot. If it looks like it's steaming a little too much, you just lower the heat. Nice and smoky. If you have a fan over your stove, you could turn that on.
which we don't.
So we'll just smoke up your kitchen.
So do you repeat this process for the rest of the bread?
Absolutely. Just keep going and you'll be done in a few minutes. We'll be ready to eat.
Yay. Yay, my favorite time.
Time to eat the paratha.
So Ami, I have to say, I think we did a great job. Look at how flaky, look at all that.
So good.
This is why we do all that rolling, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, all those layers.
All those beautiful layers. Oh my gosh.
I know, it's like crispy on the outside and kind of doughy and layered.
It's like pastry.
Yeah, it's like a rolled out croissant.
It's insane.
It's so good.
I could imagine this with like a kind of a sweetish curry, creamy. This is, you always have the perfect amount of salt in all of your baking.
Salt is everything. Salt and butter.
Salt
I think
and butter.
more so than sugar. It's like everything, just brings out flavor.
Yeah.
Even for something as simple as paratha, which is really just flour.
Yeah, it's insane. It's so good. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Ami, for coming and baking with me today. That was
My
awesome.
pleasure.
I learned something new.
That was so fun.
If you liked this episode, definitely check out the episode where Ami and I made samosas from scratch.
Those were good.
Pastry and everything. It was absolutely incredible. But I hope you enjoyed this episode and we'll see you back here again really soon.